right. Welcome back to the 7-Day Fast Start. I'm Blake Choisnet. Glad that you're here. Yesterday, we talked about what new investors get wrong, mistakes, misconceptions, errors, things that are completely preventable. And in order to do that, we went through some of the top things that cause new investors to fail. But I'm glad that you're here on day 4. You made it past the first few days. The goal here for the 7-Day Fast Start is to help you start and build a real estate portfolio no matter where you live or how much money you got. That's the goal, is to help you move faster from 0 to 1 or 1 to 5 or 5 to 10. It's to help you move forward. In order to do that, we've gone through a few different things. We went through some mindset stuff, what the wealthy know that you might not know that you need to put into practice. The mission, whether it is investing science versus art, is it something else, or what's your strategy? Today, we're going to continue with some of our biggest misconceptions and errors. These are the top 10 things that new investors get wrong. We went through picking the wrong strategy, picking the wrong market, thinking you need tons of money to start. If you needed tons of money to start, I'd have never gotten started. They give into fear, and they think you need credentials. So today, we're going through the final 5 of these top 10. We're going to be going through them. And again, every single one of these is preventable. Every single one of them is preventable. All right, so we'll get rolling. About 2 years ago, talked with a lady named Claire, a woman named Claire, and she wanted to own rentals. So we talked about her options, and she kept bringing up that there's no room for her to really invest in real estate. And there's already too many people investing in real estate, so she wouldn't be able to get any properties because others would get them before her, right? And she felt pretty paralyzed by that, such that she couldn't end up moving. Like, she didn't end up getting any momentum going in order to actually get rentals, and couldn't build wealth for retirement because she felt like there's an invisible ceiling above her, stopping her from being able to actually do anything. And this is a sentiment and a feeling, a belief even, that a lot of people feel as new investors, or even before they become investors. But they believe that real estate is too competitive. It's just too competitive for them. They think that real estate's too competitive. As we talked, Claire and I discussed all the people that are investing in real estate. I said, think of all the people that are investing in real estate. Every single person. Try and picture them in your mind. Does that feel like a lot? She said, yeah, that feels like a lot. It feels overwhelming. I said, tell me what they're like. What are they like? How long have they been investing? How many doors do you have? Things like that. And so we talked about how long they've been investing. She said, probably 10 years, maybe 5 to 10 years. I said, well, what percentage of them do you think own, say, 10 plus properties? She said, I don't know, half. Well, okay, that means that they would get 1 to 2 properties a year. I mean, that's not really a lot. There's tons of room for you in that. All right. And then I asked, what percentage of own 5 plus doors? She said 50%. And I didn't want to correct her, but that would be averaging 1 property every 2 years, essentially. Does that feel competitive? That's not. And the reality is, most people own much, much less than that. 92% of real estate investors only own 1 or 2 properties. It's less than half of 1% that own 10 or more. So that means there's almost no competition. Not many people are doing this. 92% of real estate investors own 1 or 2 properties. There is far less competition than you could possibly imagine. There's way fewer investors than you actually think. And for those of you that think it's Vanguard and State Street and BlackRock buying up all the single family, all the residential, they own a very small portion, actually surprisingly small portion of single family residential, or even small multifamily residential in general. There are far less investors competing with you than you think. And that's one of the core components of the misconception of real estate being too competitive. One of the other ones is, in part because there are not as many investors as you think, but also in part to the fact that we're just a really big and really successful country. There are more properties out there than you could possibly imagine. There are more properties out there than you could possibly keep up with. And the reality is that there are so many deals out there. There are more deals coming through my inbox than I could possibly keep up with. And there are more deals coming through my students' inboxes than they could possibly keep up with, to the point where students in the community, in the rental roadmap community, will pass deals to each other. They'll find a really good deal. And I can count a dozen plus times that this has happened. They'll find a really good deal and they'll say, well, I'm in the middle of 2 burrs right now. I don't really want to take on any more because I want to spend time with my family, or I'm at my capacity, or whatever it might be. And they pass it over to the other investors that are in their market. And someone else says, I'll take it down. I'll close on it. Awesome. One of the students recently, that was his first deal. Someone else found the deal. They analyzed it and said, oh, this is a good deal. I'm not really in a position where I want to take it on, but let me pass it over to the other investors, see if they want it. So that's a reality. There are more deals than you could possibly keep up with, but you got to know where to look. If you're looking for fish in the desert, you're going to end up hungry, and that's where it comes back to. It's a skill. You have to build the skill. Some people will say, well, you're just lucky. Well, to a certain extent, yeah, but luck is also just being ready and aware of being able to see the opportunity in front of you. If you saw the stock market plummet and you knew enough about the stock market to say, I think that's just a public sentiment, or I think that's a mass psychology thing. It's not actually intrinsic to the market in general. I'm going to put all of my money in. I've got a buddy who did this whenever COVID lockdown happened and the market just plummeted. He put almost all of his money into the stock market, and he 2x'd, 3x'd it because it popped back up over the next week. And he was able to see what other people didn't, and he was able to overcome the fear of lack of certainty in order to get that return. So you've got to have the skill built out. So that's another thing, is there's so many properties you couldn't possibly keep up with. And the last one that kind of goes into, it's only competitive if you don't have the skills. If you don't have the skills, yes, of course it's going to be competitive. You've got to have the skill, but it's something that you can actually develop and you can actually build and focus on actually developing and creating that capacity to do that. I think about my son, who's 2.5 going on 3. He didn't know how to walk at one point, but he could learn how to walk, and he practiced walking. He stunk at it for a while, and then he got way better at it. And then he started riding a bike. It's just like that. It's like going to play basketball with a group of people you've never played with. You've got to know how to build the skill, and then you've actually got to do it. And what that requires is the courage to look stupid, or the courage to just be really bad at it at first. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. It's worth doing well, yes, but it's also worth starting and doing poorly. So you need the skills, you need the tools, you need the capital. Otherwise, people with those things are going to scoop up all these awesome deals. The few investors that are out there that know what they're doing, they see all these awesome deals and they're going to grab them. You as an investor, you've got to do 2 things. You've got to make well-informed decisions, and you got to make them quickly. You can't have just one of them, right? You have to have the skills to be able to do this. You got to be able to make well-informed decisions, and you got to make them quickly. Because if you make really good decisions, but you make them slowly, everybody else is going to get the deals. And if you make really quick decisions, but you don't have the skill built up, you're going to make dumb decisions, and you're going to lose a bunch of money, right? And this isn't just true for me or other people you see that are just massively. You see their marketing material that they're just absolutely killing it. It's true for investors you don't know anything about. Students that are in my program, they are killing it. People that are starting right now. Joe Ruzon closed his first deal in 30 days. Michelle Calvin closed her first deal in 23 days. Dean was under contract on his first deal in 19 days. This belief that it's too competitive is a limiting belief. We've talked about this before, but your brain is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to help you survive. So when it sees a threat, it pushes away and says, red alert, stay away from that. This is actually not a threat. It's actually an opportunity. And you are still able to absolutely crush it if you learn the skills to be able to do that. Dean, he's now at, his goal was 12 doors in 12 months, which I think is aggressive. And but I said, you know what? If you're committed to it, great. He was at 12 doors at 8 months. He's now retired. He quit his W-2. He's full-time real estate investing. Now he's not having to work 80 hours a week in an oil and gas job. Right? That's the reality. So your belief about something and reality are oftentimes different. So you have to be able to know and understand, look at the information and say, is this true or not? And if it's not true, you have to operate off of what's true. So that is the truth. They think real estate is too competitive, and it's just not true. Now on top of that, when when I was living in Austin, I lived there for about a decade. I was starting to, this is even before I started investing, I was starting to think about buying a house, and I was wondering if it was the right time. The market had been going up for a while. It was a really cool market. It was accelerating. A few of my friends told me, wait for the market to go down so that you can buy a really good deal, because, you make money on the buy. You hear that said all the time. But these same people were also saying stuff like, oh, man, I wish I'd bought a house 5 years ago. I would have made so much money. I'd be a millionaire. I made so much money. So I was confused. I was a little lost at that sentiment, because they're saying two different things, that they believe are true, essentially. Should I buy or should I not? Should I try and time the market? I looked around and I saw, well, home prices keep going up. Rent keeps going up. The market in Austin wasn't slowing down anytime soon. So I took the leap and I bought. And as I look back, I realized at that time, home prices were the cheapest that they would ever be in Austin. They've never gone below that, and they will never go below that. They have only gone up since. And so if those people that had told me that had bought that, they would be looking back saying, man, I'm so glad I bought. But now instead they're saying, I wish that I would have bought. And this is what new investors, the seventh thing new investors get wrong, is they try and time the market. There are a few fundamental truths about trying to time the market that are flaws. They're just fundamental flaws that people believe are truths. One of them is, if you already knew how to do this, you'd be doing it. This timing the market is, if it can be mastered, it would be a skill to be developed. Say, Warren Buffett. But 99.9% of active traders in the stock market don't outperform an index fund. And index funds do not time the market. They just trail the market. So if you already knew how to do it, you would have already done it. You have to build the skill to be able to know when an opportunity is a good opportunity and when it's something to pass. Then let's say you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and try and time the market. How do you know when to buy? How do you actually know when the dip is? That's the skill to be built, but most people don't actually have it. They see things historically backwards, and they think that they could tell in the moment. So how do you know when to buy? And when you do, let's say you do know when to buy, will you have the courage to do it when no one else is doing it? If no one else is doing it, you don't actually know, is this really the right thing to do? Are you the one person, the one individual that knows that it's the right time to buy? That's very, very unlikely. And if you do have that skill, you'd probably already be a billionaire. You'd already be a billionaire at this point. And then on top of that, you also have, so that's how did you know, but then you also have fear mongers. You have these people that are just fear mongering. There, people that there will always be a housing bust coming. People are always clamoring about a housing bust coming. And they use this fear to drive clicks, to drive views, whether it's media, individuals, influencers, people with a vested interest in some other sector or area. I mean, you make no mistake, fear is a disease. It's an absolute disease. It's the most contagious disease in the world, and it will convince you of things that are just fundamentally not true. And what inexperienced investors do wrong is they remember the dip in their local real estate market a while back. Let's say that it declined 5%. And they think they should just wait for prices to go back down to that 5%, that down 5% number, and then they'll buy. But the problem with this is how long it takes for that decline to actually happen or even start. So, for example, let's say you've got a $200,000 house or median market home price. If you want to wait for a 5% dip, you got to wait until it's $190,000. But during those years, home prices increase modestly, let's say 4%, which is below the average for the United States. In 3 years, the home price has gone up 12%. And then you're still waiting for that 5% dip. So even if it happens that soon, you're paying 7% more. And when you are waiting for that 5% dip, now it's not a 5% dip. You got to have a 12% dip plus the 5%. So it's got to go down 17%, right? Even in 08, 09, home prices only went down 20 to 25%. So the likelihood of that happening is just so low. So trying to time the market is a bad idea, and fear mongers are only going to make it worse. You'll lose tons of money by waiting. Absolutely tons of money by waiting. And this is called opportunity cost. It's the money that you could have made if you did that thing. So there's opportunity cost in everything, not just in investing or with money, but if someone invites you out to dinner, there's the cost of going to dinner, and then there's the opportunity cost of not going to dinner, right? There's also the cost of going to dinner and something else that you could have done. And when I say cost, it's not just financial. The cost of going to that dinner could be $40, but the value of going to that dinner, it could be your future spouse, or it could be the big career meeting you've always been looking for. But the cost of going to that dinner is also you don't get to hang out and spend time with someone else. So if you're going to some work event, the opportunity cost of going to that work event is missing out on your kid's soccer game or missing out on the ballet recital. In this case, by you waiting for the dip, you're losing so much money. You lose out on that 12,000 or 12% increase in home price, right? The real estate investing is a long game. It's a buy and hold, build wealth, build cash flow, get work optional game. And it's always going to feel harder than it was a few years ago. We always look back, just humanity always looks back with a favorable light on the past. Doesn't matter what interest rates are, what housing inventory is. It's a bet on the American economy. That's what real estate investing is. And frankly, that's a pretty good bet. If the American economy tanks, we're all screwed anyway, no matter where you put your money, whether it's in the stock market or it's in, gold, or it's in the house or land or, watches, whatever it is. If the American economy goes tank, the dollar's not worth anything anyway. So even in today's market, we've got students that are just absolutely killing it. These are new people that are just trying to figure out and build the skill of real estate investing. I think I mentioned Jordan went 0 to 10 doors in 4.5 months. And he started recently, with high interest rates, quote unquote, and a competitive market and low inventory. He's killing it. And then Brandon went 0 to $2,700 a month in cash flow in about 3 months. Lack of action will cost you millions, and it will cost you thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in cash flow. And I've seen so many people drop thousands of dollars on real estate investing conferences when they don't have a single door. And if it costs $5,000 to go to that conference and you keep going every year, you could have just bought a property with that money, right? So don't try and buy the dip. Just act. Build the skill and act. All right. So that's the number 7 thing that new investors get wrong. Now, one of my students, he's now got 10 doors. When we first talked, his big concern was that he was working a demanding job and didn't think that he had the time to invest in real estate. He was concerned about spending 20 hours a week finding deals, and then hours on rehab work, and having to stop in the middle of the workday because he got a call from his tenant, or some toilet stopped up or something like that, or having to miss dinner with his family to drive over to the rent house. Now, obviously, he figured out the process because he's got 10 doors now. But at first, he fell into this trap. And that trap is the 8th trap that new investors fall into is they think that real estate takes a lot of time. They just assume that it's a full-time job, or at least a 20-hour-a-week part-time job. And so while I was talking to this guy, I asked him, let me ask you a question. Let's say that the oil in your car needs to be changed. All right, you got to change the oil in your car. What do you do? And he'd say, he said, I'd change it on Saturday afternoon. Okay, well, how much time does that take? He said, about 30 minutes. I said, well, how about including the time it takes to buy the oil, find your tools, the ramp up time, the time afterwards where you got to wash your hands and maybe even shower because it's hot outside or you got dirty or something like that, everything included. He said, maybe an hour and a half. I said, how long would it take someone who has never changed oil in their car before? Right? You got to watch YouTube videos. You got to get the stuff, start doing it, go back to the store because you forgot something, then come back, and then you got to clean up all that stuff. I don't know, maybe 3 to 4 hours. But how long it takes depends on how you do it and the knowledge and skill that you have. All right. So could it take a lot of time? Yeah, I guess it could, but it doesn't have to. If you learn the process, this is another problem with new investors where they're just trying to learn it on their own, and they don't really know what they're trying to do. And so they spend all this time trying to do every single different route, and they end up losing out on making progress, and they're spending way too much time doing it. And if you can just hone and focus your skills, then golly, it takes a lot less time. If you knew what you're doing, maybe it just takes an hour. But then on top of that, you could just bring it to the shop. How long would it take there? 5 minutes flat? There's literally Take 5 is an oil and car servicing oil change place where their whole name is based off of you stay in your car, it takes 5 minutes. All right. So it's 5 minutes flat. In this case, you're the rookie. So you're with real estate investing, you don't know how to do it. You don't know how to do it the right way, the wrong way. And if you do it the wrong way, it's going to take you way, way longer. All right. But it doesn't have to take a lot of time. If you're doing it the right way, if you're doing it right, with just 3 to 6 hours a week of work, you should be closing on the door every 90 days. And I think that's very conservative. There are I was just talking about students who have gotten, 12 doors in 90 days, 8 doors in 4 months. They've gone a lot faster than this, but I think this is a very reasonable expectation, is a door every 90 days with 3 to 6 hours a week of work. All right, and a door every 90 days, that's just, even if you just did one property every 90 days and it was a quadplex, that would be 16 doors in a year. So we're talking about a door every 90 days. That would be one quadplex in a year, or one single family every 90 days. All right. So every story that I've told so far about someone killing it, Jordan or Brandon or Dean Keating, who went $0 to $2,700 a month in cash flow, retire, like every one of them had demanding full-time jobs. Dean was working 80 to 100 hours a week. And his frustration was he didn't get time with his kids, and he was missing out on their events, the things that were really important to him. Every single one of them had full-time jobs. So if you got a full-time job, you cannot afford to work 20 to 40 hours a week on real estate investing. It just sucks the soul out of the rest of your life. And so if it's your number one priority over family, over everything else, maybe, but it takes way too much time to do that. You can't afford to do it wrong. You can't afford to be putting 20 to 40 hours a week. You have to do it right. And so one of the most critical parts of getting this part right is that you have to delegate. You can't do everything yourself. Like, could you tour the market yourself? Yeah, but driving there, flying there takes time and money. Or you could spend zero time and instead use data to validate your market. Could you knock on doors to find deals? Yeah, but it's easy, but you have to be a local and it'll take 20 hours a week. So if you don't live in a really good market already, you're screwed. And if you do live in a good market that's cash flowing, it's going to take you a part-time job, maybe a full-time job anyway. Or you could just pay a wholesaler to do that for you. Now, could you rehab a property yourself? Yeah. Or you could pay a contractor that'll do it for you. It will save you months of your time, and it will save you money, like we were talking about earlier. Even managing your property. You could do that, but you don't want calls in the middle of the night about a toilet stopped up or someone flushing a diaper down the toilet. You could do every single one of these, but the question is, should you? No, you shouldn't. They take time, and you want to buy your time back so you can spend it on things you actually care about. You don't care about those things. Let someone who is an expert at those things do those things. You delegate to them. You can delegate each and every one of these high complexity parts of the process to an expert that will be better than you. They'll just be way better. Like my agent, she's been an agent for almost 40 years. My property manager, 35 years experience. The contract, they have so much more experience than me. Even if I focused on that and dialed it in, I probably wouldn't have the experience that they have. Right? You don't have to know everything. You just have to know the right people, and you got to delegate. This is how I manage my portfolio in 30 minutes a month. 30 minutes a month. I get a P&L statement in. I look at it, make sure that the numbers are green. Good, thumbs up. If I see a property that's bleeding or it's got more expenses than normal or it's over a threshold that I've set, I check in on it. I see what's going on and take some action if needed. But it's 30 minutes a month. It saves you time and money to delegate and to be able to hand these things off to people that are actually really, really good at it. Your time should be spent on two things and two things only: finding money and making offers. Those are the two best uses of your time. Yeah, there's some ancillary things that you got to do that, respond to an email here or there, or the operational, like reviewing a P&L. But the primary amount of your time, that 3 to 6 hours a week, should be focused on finding money and making offers. That's it. And you want to delegate everything else so that you can buy your time back. Otherwise, you'll just end up creating another job for yourself, which is the opposite of what you're trying to do anyway, right? So that is the truth. It does not take a lot of time. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. And if you do it the right way, it won't take a lot of time. Now, I also talked to, I talked to a new investor recently, a guy named Colin, He told me he was wanting to do some multifamily stuff, some short-term rentals, some flips. And we talked through, where he was, where he wanted to go, his barriers to getting there. And he had been working really hard in real estate for years, but he wasn't getting anywhere. And it's not just that he'd been kind of passively working in real estate. He had actually been working really hard on it, but no deals, no contracts, no flips, nothing. And the reason was he was trying to do everything. And by doing everything, he did nothing. All right. He was not focused. He had way too many priorities. He wanted to do multifamily, short term, flip. Like, there was just way too many things he's focusing on. And so that's the ninth thing. The ninth thing that new investors do that are big mistakes that cost them a ton of money and a ton of time is they try and do too many things at once. And he was, Colin was trying to do everything because he'd heard all these, awesome stories, as we all do, about people that have been really successful with this one strategy or been really successful in this one area. But by trying to do everything all at once, he ended up making no progress. And this makes sense, especially if you also make the 10th mistake that we'll talk about here in a moment. But you're trying your best, you're reading, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, you get a ton of information, but you're also just drowning in information. And 80% of it, you don't even need to know to be able to reach your goals. So that's a problem. And the crazy thing is, everyone knows that focus is important. Everybody knows this. So many of you might even listen to this and say like, yeah, duh, I got focused. But why does it happen then? If everybody knows that this is such a problem, why does it happen and how do you fix it? Everybody knows it in principle, but do they actually do it? Why don't they just do it? In this case, one of the reasons this happened was about him not being clear on his strategy. And we talked about that in day 2, so I'm not going to go rehash this. But this is one reason picking the right market or picking the right strategy is so important. If you're not clear on your strategy, pause this video, go to day 2 where I talked about this, and identify your strategy, outline your strategy, circle one of them, define that as your strategy, then come back and finish this video, because that's how important it is. If you end up with 5 different things you're trying to do all at once, you're not going to get anything done. The bigger reason, so that's one reason it happened, but the bigger reason this happened is a core component of the nature of focus and prioritization. Growth, by its nature, comes through focus. So where you focus expands. There's so much remarkable psychological research that's been done on this, but it's by its very nature. It's like a law of existence. Where you focus expands. So if you focus on something, that area becomes bigger in your life, in your brain, in your psychology. You learn more, you see more, you understand more. This is why people that are focused in one area get more lucky, because they can see more opportunities that other people just don't see. It's not just pure chance. It's how our brains work. I'll give you an example. And this is an example coined by the great Tony Robbins. Do this. Right now, sitting in your chair, wherever you're at, look around your room. Look around your room. I want you to search for everything that you see that's brown. I'm going to ask you to list things that you saw in the room. So look around the room. Remember everything that you see that's brown. Look on the left side, look on the right side, look behind you. Look at small things, at big things. Find everything that you see that's brown. All right. Now, I want you to close your eyes. Now, tell me everything that you saw in your room that was red. All right. Obviously, you saw a lot more brown, right? Why? Because you were looking for it. Now, open your eyes and look for red. Look for red anywhere you can find it. Look at the sides of the room, high, low, big, small. Did you find more red things this time? Of course you did. Why? Because you were looking for red. You were focused, but you were focused on the wrong thing. You weren't looking at every color. You were even looking for the wrong color the first time. But now that you're focused on the right thing, you see a lot more of it. And so where you focus expands. And this is why it's critical to focus on the right places. So you can't focus on the wrong thing. You have to focus on the right things. This is why you talk about lifestyle and goals and strategy and putting them in the right order like we did earlier in day 1 and 2. So it's important to know that, because real estate investing is a skill. If you focus on it, it will expand and you can master it. But you have to decide whether or not you're going to focus on it. Saying no to good things is a good thing. You have to say no to the things that will not bring you the best result and say yes to the things that will. So how do you solve this problem? Here's how you solve this problem. You have to prioritize. This isn't just for real estate. It's for creating a life that you desire, like the perfect life that you want, a life that you love. I mean, Britt and I, we often look at each other and say, can you believe this is our life? This is crazy. We'll just be watching our son walk around or run around, or we'll be spending time together on a date in the middle of the day, or just, taking a nap or whatever it might be. We'll say, can you believe this is our life? And it's because we're focused and we prioritize the things that we care about most. So here's how you fix this problem. The way that you fix this problem, you have to align your time with your priorities, right? So it's commonly said, you are what you repeatedly do, right? And so you can do this. You can fix this problem with just 3 steps. All right. The way that you fix this in 3 steps is, first, you have to define your priorities. You have to be clear on what your priorities actually are. And you might say, well, I know what my priorities are, but do you know them well enough to tell somebody and articulate to them? If they say, what are your top 5 priorities? Can you say them? Because by clarifying them, that defines your priorities in a way that allows you to actually focus on them. So do this. Write out a list of your priorities. Treat them as projects or tasks. I want to get consistent time with family. I want to get, maybe it's 30 minutes a day with my kids, or 2 hours a day with my kids, or whatever it might be. I want to golf more. Maybe it's around your hobbies, or getting a new job, or travel baseball for your son, or vacation to a certain place, or building a rental portfolio, or whatever it might be. List all of them, all of those priorities. Not just family or finances or whatever it is, but get tactical on what it looks like from a time standpoint, how much time you're actually putting into it. Then rank them. So now you got a list of, 15, 20, maybe 30 things. I want you to rank them and find the 5 most important and put them in order: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And think about it when you rank them. Think about it through the lens of this question: what, if accomplished, would have the biggest positive impact on my life? What of these things, if accomplished, would have the biggest positive impact on my life? And if you got to go through and rank each one, 1 to 10, with 10 being like, it would change my life, and 1 being like, it'd be fine. You can do that and then just go put them in order. Because I contend this: every person has 3 to 5 main priorities they can focus on. You got your family, maybe it's a relationship, maybe you got kids, whatever. You got a job, and then maybe 1 to 3 more, depending on your capacity. So, for example, if you're married and you really care about investing in your family, but you also got 4 kids age 5 and under, you're probably going to have that might take up 2 or 3 spots. It's just you're going to have less capacity than somebody that maybe you're a bachelor, you got a lot of flexibility, or maybe you're retired and you're an empty nester, you've got more time. There's just the nature of that. So, or you could be a really high capacity person that needs a lot of stimulation to be fulfilled. Maybe you've got 5 of these. I know for me, it's probably 3 to 4, depending on stage of life. But I say everybody's got 3 to 5 main priorities. So pick your top 3 to 5 priorities. And remember, saying no to good things allows you to do great things. It allows you to do great things well. You need to be able to tell someone clearly, if asked, what your priorities are. Now, not only do you have to define your priorities, you also have to line them up with your time. You have to align. It can't just be written out, these are my priorities, but you are what you repeatedly do, which means you've got to align your time with those priorities. So I would ask, how much time per week are you going to put toward this? If it's a real priority for you, how much time are you going to put toward it? And maybe real estate investing is not on that list. And if you say no, that's a good step in the right direction for you. If it's not in line with your priorities or where you want to go, where you want to build, that's okay. Saying no to good things allows you to do great things. But if it's something that you say, man, there's all these other good things, maybe I just can't do this. It might be worth sacrificing a good thing for you to be able to pursue great things. So how much time are you going to put toward each one? And I want you to write that amount of time per week that you're going to give to each one, write it out. All right. So first, you got to define your priorities. Then you got to align them to your time. And lastly, you've got to consistently check in and adjust. It's not going to be perfect, and you shouldn't expect it to be perfect. You've got to routinely check in and adjust on these things. Britt and I have family meetings and quarterly family planning check-ins. We define our priorities, even our friendships, our goals for marriage, parenting, family, business, lifestyle. I mean, even friendships, we go as deep as to say, these are our core friendships. These are our people. And so if we have a weekend where we've got 4 things that we've committed to, or that we've said, these are things we really want to do that we would normally do, we know we just can't do that. So we start with, well, what things are our yes people? That's our immediate family. And then we have a list of people, a list of couples and families here in town that's how we prioritize. Britt, for her friendships, she has a group that she calls her yes girls, which are 5 women that she proactively nurtures those relationships. That doesn't mean that she hates everybody else. It means that they are a priority for her. And when they say, I need help, or I need some encouragement, or can we grab coffee? The answer is yes, and we make it work. That's what it allows you to do. Saying no to good things allows you to say yes to great things. Don't try and do everything at once. If you do, you will absolutely fail. You got to define your priorities. You've got to align your time with your priorities, and then you've got to check in and you've got to adjust. Now, as we move into the last piece, the number 10, when I got started investing, no, I didn't know anybody doing this. Nobody did this. In fact, my dad thought it was a bad idea because I've shared this story before, but he had owned a property in a college town where my sister went to school, and it was great while she was at school. Then she moved away, and he was self-managing a property 2 hours away. And it became a headache because he did one thing wrong. But I did it all on my own. I didn't have anybody to encourage me or tell me what I didn't know, or ask questions or celebrate my successes. I ended up having my first contractor, walk off with $12,000. I thought he was doing a good job, but I didn't know how to estimate rehab. I didn't know how to manage rehab. I didn't know how to monitor the project or provide accountability for him. I didn't, or make sure that what was happening, what he said was happening, was actually happening. Any quality control was out the window. Then I found someone, or some other people really, doing this. I found an accountability partner. I found a coach, and I ended up just absolutely exploding. It literally changed everything. I learned how to find better deals I had no idea were out there. I nailed my rehab estimates. I implemented rehab monitoring practices that let me know exactly where we were in rehab. And I found the best lenders with the most competitive rates, and I let them compete for my business like I'm the pretty girl at the school dance. I identified properties that were traps. I knew how to spot the ones that were too good to be true. I was able to negotiate lower prices on great properties and find private money lenders. It fundamentally changed the game for me. And that's just one example of why you can't go alone. The final thing, the final thing of the top 10 things that new investors get wrong is they make the crucial mistake of they go alone. Now, now, this doesn't mean that you have to have a coach or a formal coach or something like that, or that you got to be in my program. It just means you need some direction, because the reason this happens, it's not all bad reasons for why this happens, why people go alone. I mean, I get it. Sometimes they're achievers, they're focused, they're goal oriented. They know their mission. Like they're clear on they're focused. They're clear on their priorities. They're action takers. They're compelled by the future that they know they can create, and they don't want just anyone. And, they know that action is better than inaction, like all of those things. Those are good things, but there are some bad reasons. There are some really bad reasons, and they might sound innocent enough, but they're rooted in a character issue. It's a personality and character flaw that's preventing them from being who they want to be. And, don't think, when I say character issue, don't think of character traits, because character traits, when we say that makes it seem like it's a personality trait. It's something that you can't change. It's immutable. It is what it is. They are more like character skills, because, one of the, there's that famous story of, if you ask God for patience, will he just give it to you, or will he give you opportunities to learn how to be patient? Patience is a character skill. It's a character trait, but it's something you can learn. If you're impatient, you can learn patience. If you're dishonest, you can learn honesty. I mean, these are character skills, and you can change them. That's the good thing. The three of them that are most deadly, I want to talk about. The first one is the loner. I call it the loner. These are the three broken character skills. It's someone that says, I don't need anyone. I'm confident. I can do this all on my own. And the problem with this is, if you want, what's the saying? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And most of the time, it's rooted in pride. It's rooted in arrogance that you know more than you actually do. Or maybe it's because you refuse to accept help because you don't want to look weak, or they think that they just already know everything. And the reality is, if you go alone, you open yourself up to a lot more risk, and you're going to go slower. 100%, you're going to go. Maybe you go slower or faster than somebody else, but you're going to go way slower than you actually could. That's the loner. The next character flaw is the know-it-all. This is somebody, they already think they know everything. I already read all the books and I listened to all the podcasts, so I know everything. The reality is that knowledge is different than action. It just is. Like, I know how to get a six-pack, eat better, do a bunch of crunches, right? Eat lots of protein and don't eat a bunch of carbs, right? Like, cut a bunch, right? But I haven't done it. So if someone came to me and said, hey, can you teach me how to get a six-pack? I'd say, no, I'm not the right person to teach you that. Right. And in the same way, these people that think that they know it, that they know everything, they don't really know. And again, there's some pride in there as well. I recently talked to somebody who has never started a business, and he's never built a business. And we were talking business, and he works for a W-2, a big company. He was like, oh, you should do this, and you should do this, and you should do this. And I was like, okay, thanks for your input. I'll take that into consideration. But the reality is he'd never done it. So he doesn't understand the practical, like, ideas are easy. Execution is where the magic happens. And that's the problem with the know-it-all, is they think they already know everything. And so if someone tries to give them experienced perspective, they don't even listen to it. So they lose out on the best opportunity that they could have had. And then the last one is what I call the stubborn mule. It's someone who's just unwilling to allow themselves to be wrong. They just won't. They can't imagine a world where they could possibly be wrong. It's got a flavor of narcissism in it. They don't want to be corrected by somebody else. They don't want to be told what to do, even if that person's right. They don't want to, and this isn't just like it's like leadership. Like, I don't want to be told what to do. I want to help give direction to people. It's that they don't want to be corrected. Like, they lack humility. And these things, these character traits, again, every single one of these can be fixed. These are character traits or character skills that can be fixed with a little bit of humility and teachability. And all of these things, they lead to moving very, very slow. For the people that I talk, generally, when they go alone, it takes at least 2 years to get their first deal. And most of them never get their first deal. I would say maybe 5% of them get their first deal, but it takes inordinately long. Most of them end up giving up, and then they convince themselves, the worst case scenario, they convince themselves real estate doesn't work. It doesn't work. So you have to have people around you that are doing this. You got to have a community. You need other people to talk to ask questions, to celebrate with you, and for you to actually celebrate them. And you got to find a mentor, someone to actually help you. And this mentor, you call them a mentor, a coach, a guide, a sensei, whatever you want to call it. They need to have three things. First, they got to know what you want to know. They got to know the subject material. They need to have actually done it and actually been in the trenches doing it. And it's not just a knowledge that's head knowledge, it's experiential knowledge. They've got to know what you need to know. Then they've got to be able to teach it. Every single one of us has had an experience with somebody who is a great individual contributor, actually absolutely killed it at their job. Then they just rolled them into a supervisory role or a leadership role because they were the best one of the group. But it lit everything on fire. It was a terrible experience because that's not their skill. That's not what they're wired for. It's not what they're good at. You have to be able to teach it. And this is a distinct and different skill. You got to know it. You got to teach it. And lastly, and I think hardest to find, is they got to be willing and able to give you their time. So the biggest challenge here is if somebody's been really successful at this, they've bought back their time. Why would they help? they could meet with you once a week, which is a lot. That's a big commitment. And even then, it's just once a week for an hour, right? And so if you've got somebody, you've got to find somebody like this. If you've got somebody like that in your life, go talk to them and go ask them for help. If it's a cousin, an aunt, a friend's dad, your best friend's dogs, uncles, whatever it is, just ask. Not everybody has that person in their life. So if you know somebody, just ask them, say, hey, you've got a lot of experience that I really respect, and I'd like to grow in areas you're really good at. Can I take you to coffee and we talk about your business experience? I learn from you a little bit. And you can ask them at that meeting, would you consider meeting with me consistently to teach me or to help me understand this? I mean, you can absolutely find somebody like this. Now, you might not have somebody in your life. Most of my students don't have someone like this in their life. I didn't have somebody like this in my life. They don't have somebody like this in their life, so I fill that role for them. But maybe you don't need a coach, but you definitely do need direction. You need to find somebody to help you. It'll save you time, headache, money, and heartache for sure. And it's going to help you move faster. So that's the 10th thing that new investors do wrong. That wraps up our top 10 things that new investors get wrong. And if you can avoid making these mistakes using the tools that I've given you, you will move way faster. You will make way more money, and you'll move faster to creating the life that you actually want. So that wraps up day 4 of the 7-day fast start. For day 5, we're actually going to start walking through. I'm going to walk you through an entire deal beginning to end. So how to pick your market, how to source deals, how to build your local team, how to finance them, all of those things. I'm going to walk you through that entire process over the course of the next 3 days. So we're going to talk in day 5, we're going to talk about identifying a market and absolutely 100% being able to science whether or not it will cash flow, and how to find those deals as we continue to move on through the entire process of an entire deal, rehab, refinancing, all of those things. So you know exactly how to close on your next property. All right, we'll see you there. See you on day 5.